Today we're going to be talking about the Mycenaeans. These were going to be our very first Greeks. Why are they Greek? Because they spoke Greek. It's that simple. Now the Mycenaeans are going to wind up building fortresses on the Greek mainland, huge stone structures, and we believe they definitely had some military strength. Mycenae is going to be right here, and it's one of the oldest Greek city-states that we have on the Peloponnesian Peninsula. The Mycenaeans are also going to wind up invading the island of Crete and help bring an end to the Minoan civilization. They're going to wind up actually sailing all over the Mediterranean Sea and set up colonies over Greece and Italy. These colonies allowed them to become major traders. What happened is Mycenae would go and extract the raw resources from the different colonies. So, for example, they might mine silver or tin and go and take that back to Mycenae, create manufactured goods, and sell them throughout the Mediterranean. However, like our other Greeks, they are going to wind up primarily trading olive oil. Now, you are actually already familiar with some of the Mycenaean culture and legend with the Trojan War. Now, of course, the Trojan War that we heard about started because of goddesses arguing about who's the most beautiful, but most likely the Trojan War was over trade. We think the city of Troy, the Trojans, were wind up taxing the Greeks, and the Mycenaeans did not want to pay those taxes and then therefore invaded. Whether there was a giant wooden horse or not, that's up for us to discover one other day. Now, this Mycenaean culture, though, is not going to last forever. Invaders are going to come in. The Dorians will come, invading from the north, and it's going to wind up going and having the Mycenaean culture crumble. This is going to create the Dark Ages of Greece, not to be confused with the Dark Ages of Europe that'll happen, roughly 1,000 to 1,500 years later. Now, the Labyrinth. We talked yesterday about the network of mazes under the palace at Knossos. And once again, people needed to explain this. Why would a palace have a maze? Well, probably because of a monster. We talked about bull leaping yesterday and how there are all of these paintings of bulls and people leaping over bulls. So, of course, they assume a monster is living there. This monster is half man, half bull, the Minotaur. And as the story goes, every 9 years, 7 boys and 7 girls, so young men and maidens, young girls, came from the city-state of Athens to be eaten by the Minotaur. Eventually, the hero Theseus is going to hear about this. He's going to say, well, I don't want our people being eaten. He'll go into the Minotaur. He winds up following a magical thread. It's a fantastic story that hopefully we'll wind up reading a little bit later. Anyways, he is able to find and slay the Minotaur. And all of this came from a Greek person found a maze under the ruins of the palace, and they needed to explain why. Greek mythology, stories to explain what they see. Here we see a Mycenaean fortress, an artist's representation. We see the walls adding protection, defenses. We see what the people's homes would have been like. Here we see some ruins, and then the artist's idea of what it probably looked like when it wasn't destroyed due to earthquake and years of erosion. This right here is called the Lion's Gate. Right here, it actually originally there were 2 lion heads poking out, but due to time they've broken. This kind of arch on the top is actually a pretty impressive architectural design, and we see it going further back. This would have been beautifully painted as you come. We can see the Tholos, which is another architectural creation of the Mycenaeans, having this domed roof. They're able to create this actually by the way they keep the bricks from falling is actually pressure from the soil over top. So that's why it's buried into a hill. And that was piled on as they stack the bricks to keep everything in place. Here's what it kind of looked like from a drawing. We've seen this image before over here. In fact, I believe it's on your textbook. It's a death mask. So this would be placed upon a king or noble. It would typically be made of gold, and it would show what their face looked like, although albeit a little stretched. This is called the Mask of Agamemnon. If it truly is the Agamemnon of the Trojan War, maybe, maybe not, but that's the name it was given. Here's just another artist rendition showing the Tholos. We're going to see this in a couple different times this structure created. It's a big deal that they made it. Just more going on with that. Once again, Agamemnon's death mask, the art of bulls, and of course, a golden vessel. Here's just a timeline showing these things going on. We think the Trojan War was around 1200 BCE. Homer is going to write this, however, around 600. We don't know for certain. So this is going to take a long time in between, and these are stories that Homer heard. He wrote them down and added his spin with the mythology and the gods. So we get to the classical age of Greece, the pre-classical period, the Dark Ages. I apologize for misspeaking. This time, the life in Greece becomes more about farming. Kings are no longer ruling this time, and we see Greeks are going to be spread all throughout Asia Minor and the Aegean because of the invasions of the Dorians. Now, after we have the Dorian invasion, we're going to wind up seeing what we think of classical Greece starting to form. We're going to have the Greek language spreading around, people all speaking the same Greek. This is when we start having the stories of the heroes like Theseus coming in, the mythology of the gods and goddesses, some of their religious practices and ceremonies. We're going to see more trading of the olive oil. And you might wonder in our song, why do we call them the Hellenes? Well, this is because of the idea of the Greek ancestors coming from three different groups, the Ionians, the Aeolians, and the Dorians. So we're going to see the where we have this migration coming from Europe, coming from parts of mainland Greece and spreading to Asia Minor. You truthfully don't have to write these second bullet here, but this first idea, how we see the archaic Greek ages forming to what will become eventually the classical Greeks that we think of when we think of Greece. Thank you. That'll be our notes for today. Have a wonderful day.